What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sector for Nerds. I'm Ryan Brower, and I just watched what I think is the best episode of The Mandalorian that we've ever seen. And the funny thing is, I feel like there's a lot of people who are going to watch this episode and so much is going to go over their heads because this episode had so many references from Clone Wars and Rebels when it came to characters, storylines, and even the frickin' Darksaber. Now, first off, the opening shot of this episode was exactly what I said it was going to be in my last Mandalorian review, and that was the Mando ship just like floating through space, heading towards that planet. Now, I can't remember, I know at the end of the episode he said Mon Cala, or Mon Calamari, but I don't know like if that was actually the planet or if that was just what they were referring to, but I mean, the whole planet was filled with Mon Calamari and Corrin, which are, you know, the two species that make up of that planet, so, but I don't know if he was officially there or not. The moment when the quarry turned on the Mando and they pushed Baby Yoda, they kicked Baby Yoda into the water, my jaw dropped and I'm like, you son of a bitch. And then the Mando starts getting beat up and he's pushed down into the water and they close the cage on him, he's trying to breathe for air and stuff, and I'm sitting there like, Sasha, save him, you know, because like we saw Sasha Banks' character towards the beginning of the episode, and I'm thinking like, okay, she's got to come in and save him, right? But then little did I expect for a rocket to hit, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's Sasha or something, but nope, in comes frickin' Bo-Katan, and how did I know it was her? Because of the fact that I've seen Clone Wars and Rebels so many times, I know that helmet anywhere, and the moment I saw that helmet, I jumped out of my bed, because I was watching it in my bed. I don't know why I feel the need to disclose that information, but I digress. And then, what amazed me even more was not only Katie Sackhoff voicing Bo-Katan, but she was actually under the frickin' helmet. I'm so happy for Katie and the fact that she got to come back and not just voice a character that she's voiced for so many years, but to be able to come back and actually play that character, like, oh my gosh, that's so frickin' amazing. And then the other Mandalorians took off their helmets, and Sasha Banks was one of them, current WWE SmackDown Women's Champion Sasha Banks. And then I don't know who the third guy was, however, and people can correct me on this, am I wrong? Was he not one of the main villains of Captain Marvel? Like the guy that helped train her at the beginning of the episode, and then she's fighting at the end of the episode. I don't remember the guy's name, but do you guys know who I'm talking about? You guys will have to let me know in the comments who that is. But the moment when they all take off their helmets, and the Mando says, wait a second, you guys aren't supposed to be taking your helmets off, you guys aren't true Mandalorians, and Bo's response was basically, oh, you're one of those Mandalorians, and they practically buried the idea of keeping your helmets on and stuff, which I always thought was a weird thing anyway, because they kept saying, you know, in the first season, oh, you need to keep your helmet on, this, that, and the other. And then, yet in Clone Wars and Rebels, like, half the Mandalorians had their helmets off all the time, you know what I'm saying? However, I do respect that even though Bo was telling him, like, oh, it doesn't matter about the whole helmet thing, that he kept to his traditions and what he was raised on. So, I guess it's just a matter of perspective, right? Because she did say that that the Mandalorians that he was raised by are trying to bring back some of the old traditions and stuff. So, I mean, I can understand that. It's fair enough. But then the references continue, because Bo says, hey, if you help me with this mission, I can lead you to a Jedi. And my mindset was immediately, Ahsoka? But then little did I expect that at the end of the episode, Bo-Katan goes, yeah, you're gonna go to the planet Corvus, which when I think of the name Corvus, I think of the name of the ship that Inferno Squadron used, but I'm sure it's not that. So you have to go to the planet Corvus, and there you will find Ahsoka Tano. They name-dropped her in this episode. I didn't see that coming at all. Another moment that made my jaw drop and make me go crazy. I don't think that people really understand the significance of Bo-Katan being in this episode, of them name-dropping Ahsoka and her showing up. They are taking characters that were used in animated television TV for those stories and are bringing them into live action. This is a massive deal. It's, to me, it's unprecedented. Sure, we've had Saw Gerrera in Rogue One, which was a big deal. Sure, we had Maul in Solo. That was was a big deal. But to have so many characters between Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, I'm pretty sure Sabine's gonna be showing up because where Ahsoka is at this point, I guarantee Sabine's not far behind. There's every potential that more Mandalorians could show up that we know of, like Ursa or Fen Rao. But my point is that there's so many characters that they're taking from the television storylines and bringing them into this show. So for people who haven't seen Clone Wars and Rebels, a lot of the stuff that's going to be happening in these next few episodes are going to go over your heads. But here's where this is a good thing. That they're all showing up, is the fact that Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, there are even diehard fans of Star Wars who haven't seen those shows, much less the mainstream. The Mandalorian is always, now since the start of Season 2, been the thing that's been trending in the #1 slot on Disney Plus, as far as like most popular shows. And it's the most requested piece of new content for the mainstream. So the fact that not only do you have diehard Star Wars fans watching this show, but you have the mainstream attention. So hopefully what this does is it brings more people in to getting interested in these storylines and these characters. So it makes people go, oh, I like this Bo-Katan person. I'm going to go check out Star Wars The Clone Wars. Oh, I've heard a lot about this Ahsoka Tano. We've heard so much over the years about this character, but now the fact that I'm seeing her in live action makes me want to go check out Clone Wars and Rebels. That's what I'm hoping happens with the fact that you have all these characters here. And you know what, guys? I have a really big hope right now that a big theory, it's more of like a hope than anything else, but I want, they had Katie Sackhoff, not just voicing Bo-Katan, but playing her. I want Ashley Eckstein to play Ahsoka Tano, and I don't know how that would work, if it's possible, if it's something that she wanted to do, if it's something that they always had planned. Maybe it's gonna happen, maybe not. But at least if Ashley's voicing her, because for something big like this to be, watched by diehard Star Wars fans, watched by the mainstream, like, Ashley deserves to be a part of this as much as Katie Sackhoff deserves to be Bo-Katan. And if Sabine shows up, I want Tia voicing her. To me, I feel like you can't have these legacy characters without the people who actually helped work on them. When it comes to Bo-Katan, I was so happy that she showed up in this episode. She's one of my favorite female characters of all time. If you guys have seen my top 10 females in Star Wars video, hopefully you guys will go and check that out. Bo is one of my favorite females of all time. Ahsoka is my favorite character of all time. I've made that abundantly clear. Sabine is one of my favorite characters of all time. I've also made that clear as well. But if you're gonna bring them into The Mandalorian, I really hope that you have Ashley and Tia involved in some way, shape, or form. Now, here's my theory for the next couple episodes on what's gonna go down. So, Dave Filoni, to my knowledge, is directing the 5th episode, and next week we've got the 4th episode coming up, right? So my guess is that the Mando's gonna go to Corvus, and he's gonna spend the episode looking for Ahsoka, and then at the end of the episode, he's gonna find her. And then the 5th episode is gonna be where most of the Ahsoka stuff goes down, because Dave's directing it. And for a lot of people who have seen Clone Wars and Rebels know how Dave has pretty much written most of Ahsoka's stories when it comes to Clone Wars and Rebels. So it only makes sense that he would direct the episode that she was a part of. Bo-Katan also referenced the Darksaber in this episode because obviously Moff Gideon took it from her. I would have to assume, right? Because Bo-Katan was the last person that we know of to have the Darksaber besides Moff Gideon. So I'm very curious now about that storyline and how he ended up getting it. Now, what I'm curious about even more is what some of the lightsaber fights are going to look like with Moff Gideon, because, I mean, according to reports, right, he ended up breaking several of the props for the Darksaber. So I feel like he'd have to fight Ahsoka maybe, like if they're gonna do lightsaber to lightsaber, which would be cool because that would be our first live action lightsaber battle in The Mandalorian. Like, that'd be really cool. I just hope that none of these characters die in this series. Like, I don't think Ahsoka's gonna die, but, like, I do have a little bit of suspicion that Bo-Katan might, but I really hope she doesn't. And speaking of Moff Gideon, we got him for about, like, a minute in this episode via hologram, and he basically had the Imperial officer crashing the ship into the water so the Mandos couldn't get their hands on the weapons and the ship. They were able to save the ship, but they weren't able to get any information out of the guy because he ended up like practically killing himself. So I think what we can take away though from, I mean, I feel like the season 1 kind of gave it away too, but like Moff Gideon is such a freaking extremist. Like he killed his own troopers, he killed the warden, I believe his name was, right? Like the elderly fellow in the first season who assigned him the mission of finding the child. And then on top of that, now he was willing to kill a bunch of stormtroopers that were on that ship, the 2 people that were piloting it, and even the officer that was there too. I think he has a very similar mindset to Maul when it comes like information is a valuable commodity. You know, seek to it that the Prime Minister does not become an asset to our enemy, as Maul would put it in the Clone Wars. If you're going to be an asset to the enemy, then you are most likely going to die, which is exactly what's happened in both seasons so far when Moff Gideon has showed up. This season has me so hyped now after this episode, and like I said, it's my new favorite episode of the show so far, and I feel like there's still much more to come that could potentially top it. I've seen people complaining that the episode is only 35 minutes, and I guess like with credits and stuff, it's a little bit less, obviously, right? They packed so much of a punch in this episode that to me, it doesn't matter. They had so much more in this episode than the first 2 episodes put together. And like as painful, I mean, it's not painful for me to say, but I think it's something that's probably going to annoy some people when I say it. But in all honesty, I don't give a shit about what Boba Fett is doing anymore, especially after what we got here. I'm more into the storyline with Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, all these different characters there. I want to see what happens to them. I don't even really care about Boba Fett anymore. I don't even know how he would even fit into that storyline. So honestly, if they did wait for season 3 to bring him back, I would not mind that at all. And then I know people are going to be like, oh my gosh, you don't care about Boba Fett and stuff. And it's like, well, honestly, I kind of don't. Like, I'm not really that big of a Boba Fett fan anyway. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was cool when he showed up and I was like so ready for him to show up whenever. But like now that we have all of this, what we got in this episode, it's like, I don't even care anymore. Ooh, another thing that I forgot to mention about Bo-Katan. When she referenced Ahsoka, she told the Mandalorian to tell Ahsoka that Bo-Katan sent you and thank you for your service, referring to the Siege of Mandalore. I think it would be really cool that at some point in this, like, season, for Ahsoka and Bo to meet up again so she can thank her, you know, herself, because those two have, like, such a history together. A history that includes Bo slapping her in the butt. Overall, I obviously really enjoyed this episode. All of the cameos were great. Having Bo-Katan in there and having her in action for so much of this episode, she got to showcase who she was to an audience that may not know her. And which is why, again, I'm hoping that that gets people to go, okay, maybe I should check out Clone Wars and Rebels after all. And the best part is they didn't change Bo-Katan at all either. Like, who you see in this episode is the same Bo-Katan that you see in both Clone Wars and Rebels. So to me, this was just a fan service episode to people who watch those shows. And the best part is, right, it's not even done yet. I'm so hyped for the rest of this season. There's going to be even more surprises, having Ahsoka in there, potentially Sabine. It just, oh my gosh, I cannot freaking wait. And one more thing, the moment when Bo-Katan said this is the way, I can't remember what the Mando said to set it up, but I knew she was going to say it as well. I'm like, please say it, please say it, please say it. And then she said it and I went freaking crazy. So yeah, this episode, I freaking loved it. But I think that's going to wrap up our conversation for today. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share this video around as it really helps support my channel. Let me know in the comments what you guys are looking forward to most when it comes to the rest of Season 2. What do you guys think Ahsoka is going to do? Let me know in the comments below your guys' thoughts on that. And I will see you guys next time. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.